Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video, in the maelstrom of will he, won't he for Sunak's Northern Ireland Protocol settlement, I'm going to discuss how the latest momentum seems to be now against a deal and why this is an incredibly stupid move on behalf of the Tory MPs who are blocking it. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So this is another video where I have to reflect on the stupid evil of Tory MPs. I keep saying that, yes, there is strategic benefit in my opponent acting with such stupidity, but I find it embarrassing to have my country run by such stupidity. It reflects very poorly on the people of this country who voted them into office. For this video, I was all set to describe the real boost that Sunak could get with the Northern Ireland Protocol settlement. Briefly now, it would first of all have shown him to have succeeded where Johnson failed, but that is of limited value. What is of much greater value is the wider benefits it would unlock. Entry to Horizon, defence energy deals, closer cooperation to scale back some of the damage of the extreme Tory Brexit. I will discuss these benefits in more detail if the deal looks like it can get over the line. But now what we're being told is we don't really know. It's always a bit up in the air. But we're given the impression that Tory rebels are causing a problem. We were maybe expecting, there was nothing definite said, we were maybe expecting an announcement tomorrow. Now it's like, well, it won't really be till the middle of this week at least, and it may not be till later. It may not be ever if the Tory rebels stand firm. So there's not really much point in going over the detail of exactly what the benefits would be if I'm getting the impression that Tory rebels are not prepared to back the deal anyway. There was a tweet from Simon Clarke, a Eurosceptic Tory MP. He linked Boris Johnson's ridiculous article yesterday, arguing many things, but against dropping the Northern Ireland Protocol bill. But he said, we shouldn't agree to anything that subjects Northern Ireland to EU laws. Well, you already did that, Simon. Boris Johnson, Simon Clarke, Rishi Sunak, every single sitting Tory MP argued for Northern Ireland to be subject to some EU rules. Not all of them, enough to maintain the freedom of movement around Ireland needed for the Good Friday Agreement to work. They also campaigned on this basis and they voted it into law in Parliament. They've got a voting record for it. Also, he says that Northern Ireland should not be in the single market. This just exposes his ignorance of what he signed into law just over 3 years ago. Northern Ireland is not in the single market. I know it's a little confusing to most people, but he's the politician who voted it in. He shouldn't understand the details. It has access to the single market for goods. This is not the same thing. The fact that a Tory MP does not appreciate the distinction 3 years after being responsible for doing it is possibly the reason why the Tories are potentially about to do something really stupid, because they don't actually understand what they're about to do. They don't understand Brexit. They don't understand the single market. They don't understand Northern Ireland. They don't understand the European Union. They don't even understand the United Kingdom. So they're about to do something stupid without realising it's stupid because they do not understand the realities. Let us consider that their chances at the next election are currently not good. They really need to turn the economy around. They're not going to win with their current policies. Yes, inflation will go down. Yes, we will return to growth. Yes, Sunak and Hunt will claim the credit and say better is just around the corner if people vote Tory again. But it's wearing thin. And besides, people aren't going to see these benefits. It's all right them saying, oh, inflation's halved. Oh, growth is back to like infinite number of noughts, 1%. They're not going to notice it in their pocket because their pockets are still shrinking. They're still struggling with the cost of living. They're still going to be struggling with the cost of living. Small boats, that's not going to help them. Nor are the power grabs against devolved non-Tory administrations going on right now. Every time they announce a new pointless distraction policy or let Lee Anderson open his mouth, they are hammering another nail into their electoral coffin. But settling the Northern Ireland Protocol, that would have actually been genuinely immense. It would have unlocked actual real economic benefits with the agreements that would have followed. In fact, even the protocol settlement would help because it would mean fewer checks on British exports to Northern Ireland. The Tories, who are arguing against this deal, are literally arguing for more checks on British goods moving to another part of the UK than need be the case. They are arguing for more trade friction inside the UK. How is that for stupidity? By obstructing this deal, the Tories are storing up two major problems for themselves. First, if they do not start to move us down a more pragmatic post-Brexit path, if they persist in hunting for unicorns, all they do is inflict another year or two of stagnation, and that Labour take all the credit for sorting out the agreements and steering the economy back to something like on course. If the Tories began this journey, they started it off, then even if Labour moved further and faster when they were in power, the Tories would be able to claim that Starmer was just reaping the benefits of the work they began. Actually, I think you'll find we started this. He just carried it on. They will then... They're not going to be able to do that if they don't wake up soon, because Labour will have done the about face. Labour will point out the very real damage that their Brexit did and claim that their own approach is more practical and of more practical use to ordinary people, and people will see it. But there is a second, even bigger and certainly more urgent problem for the Tories if they block this deal now. The Northern Ireland Protocol is a ticking time bomb, the Northern Ireland Protocol Bill, rather, that's going through Parliament. That is a ticking time bomb for them. If Sunak gets his deal over the line, he can halt its passage through Parliament. Johnson's allies and maybe some ERG will complain, but their objections aren't really going to hurt Sunak because there's no point in the bill. It'll be dead and buried. Why carry on with it? But if there is no final agreement on the protocol, the bill will have to continue its passage through Parliament. It will become law. I don't know when. It will become law. When it happens, what is Sunak supposed to do then? If he pretends to use it as leverage for the ongoing talks without using it, it won't work. The Northern Ireland Protocol Bill is not leverage. It's a button which you press to request a trade war with the EU. But that is a trade war we would lose very badly. And I don't just mean because we are the much smaller economy. It's much worse than that. Right now, the EU applies full customs and standards controls on our exports to their market. In return, we are not doing the same. We have some weak customs controls, no real checks, and we have no standards controls at all. That means it is way easier for EU businesses to export to Britain than it is for British businesses to export to the EU. The reason we are not applying the controls, because we should be doing by law, is not out of kindness, it's out of necessity. We can't afford to. If we try, we will strangle the import of food and medicines. We don't have the staff, we don't have the infrastructure, we don't have the systems to do it. So we would slow imports down to a crawl. We cannot afford to do that. Like, imagine the system that we've got right now with tomatoes and some other fruit and veg. Imagine that being more long-term, and by long-term I mean permanent, and affecting way more foods. Imagine the same for basic medicines as well. That is politically unsustainable. But a trade war involves applying tougher import controls against the market with which you're having a disagreement. Well, if we can't afford to raise our trade barriers against the EU to the heights they are legally supposed to be right now, we are obviously not going to be able to raise them to trade war levels, which is much higher. If we begin a trade war with the EU, they will raise their trade barriers. We will have more difficulty exporting to the EU, crushing businesses, crushing the economy that Rishi Sunak's trying to claim credit for it growing. It won't be growing then. But we will inflict zero pain on the EU in return. You know, you think it must be embarrassing for Putin to think he could roll over Ukraine in 3 days now that it's coming up to the first anniversary? You wait to see what happens if Sunak thinks he can dissolve the protocol, or if he feels he's forced to. But what choice will he have? If he doesn't use the bill once it's passed into law, then he looks weak. If he does use it, it will be an act of economic self-destruction on a level perhaps even worse than Liz Truss's little escapade. Johnson's supporters think they might be able to bring Sunak down over the protocol, and they might be right. But of course, that won't help the Tories either. The difference between success and failure for Sunak could not be more stark. Succeed, and he achieves three things. First, he establishes some genuine authority within his party, because to succeed, he's going to have to show some grit. Second, he will be able to spend the rest of the year pursuing deals that actually improve our economic outlook. And that will be reflected in economic assessments. They will then be able to promote the assessment of economists instead of coming up with reasons why people should ignore them. Third, he will start to see healthier poll results. Granted, all he'll be doing is clearing up a little bit of the mess. The Tories, with their Brexit, will be like someone who's come in and trashed your house, but then they pick up a broken glass. And people go, oh, thanks very much, very kind of you. But that is how people behave. All they'll be doing is smoothing off some of the rougher edges. of the damage, but people will see improvement and go, oh, they're doing all right. Let's give them more time. Some people will anyway. And the third benefit is, as I say, he will start to see those healthier poll results as a result of the fact that people will go, we're going in the right direction now. I can see some benefit. I can see some easing of budgetary restrictions. And Tories may feel that they can get an unlikely comeback. But if he fails, he has to deal with the Northern Ireland Protocol Bill when it becomes the Northern Ireland Protocol Act. He may be able to hold off for a little bit, he may be able to claim that he's using it as a stick for a while, but the ERG will want him to use it for its intended purpose. And remember, they're on a timer here. They know that the next election is not looking good for them. They're on a strict timetable here. The consequences of using it would be a deeply damaging trade war with the EU, the split in European unity that Putin wanted with Brexit all along, international condemnation from our real allies in Europe and North America for not only playing right into Kremlin's hands, but let us not forget what the consequences would be in Northern Ireland. And inevitably, the complete loss of confidence amongst the voting public. I'm not sure if I'm exaggerating if I say that the polls could end up back down to Liz Truss levels, at which point the low taxi Tory twits will be asking why they ever got rid of her, when supposedly Mr. Sensible was going to end up just as bad. This isn't just a test for Rishi Sunak. This is a test for Tory MPs. Allowing Sunak to fail here is going to cause them a monumental problem later this year. Monumental. This is a test to see whether the Conservative Party really is ungovernable. Granted, Sunak is not exactly cut out to be a leader in any circumstances, much less over such a fractious collection of warring tribes. But it is still in the Tories' interest not to fail here. And yet it seems there is a very large minority who actively want to go down the route of failure. Stupid evil, I tell you. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.